What's going on, everyone? ODC here, and I'm back with another review, a movie review. This is my review of the movie Prey. Awkwardness aside, I want to say that, I saw this movie with my girlfriend, and, I've seen all of the Predator films, the AVPs, and I've been reading Predator comics throughout the years, dabbling here and in there. For the most part, I like to think I'm pretty decent with the lore. There's some lore changes in this. It's not anything that's really gonna change anything. That's too significant. It's kind of like a nitpick gripe that I have. It's, if anything, it's not going to really affect anybody else that watches this movie. And I'm pretty sure, as far as my nitpick goes for the movie, it's not going to affect anybody who's a casual viewer of just enjoying Predator films. But as a comic book reader, it kind of bugged me a little bit, but it's still not the end of the world. I want to say that this movie, the pacing is much better. This is a much better film than The Predator, which is, I want to say, oh man, I can't stand the Predator movie. It's terrible. It's not still as bad as Predator versus Alien Requiem because, and even though I like the character of Wolf, the Yautja Wolf, I think he's actually one of the strongest because he's an elite predator. An elite predators, as far as the next in line would be an elder. So, but the elite hunters are like the big deal. That's why I think I like Wolf. Hopefully we get a NECA figure of him. We haven't gotten a figure of him yet. I think the only one we got was like from a long, long time ago, and he was kind of like almost pre-posed and very limited. But anyway, figures aside, the movie itself, Prey, like I said, much better paced than The Predator, much better, I want to say, shot than The Predator. The acting is better. I want to say line delivery is a lot better. Things feel a little bit more natural here as opposed to like just kind of shit being thrown at a fan like the last film. I don't know. I want to say like everything looked good, except for some of the CGI. I know they had to use certain CGIs. It just, some of the animals, like the bear when he was running, looked a little weird. When things would, like when the animals would start moving, if they were just sitting there, they looked good CGI wise. But when they started moving, it looked a little off. I don't know. Something was off, especially with like the snake. I don't know. It just looked a little weird. But I like the look of the feral predator. I wanted to talk about the Predator for a little bit. Definitely more of a unique look. I think that's what I was searching for. I love the different subspecies of the Predator because if you know the lore, and if you don't know the lore, I'll explain really quick. Predators weren't initially always looking the way they do. They've always been kind of spliced and worked, their DNA kind of modified. Like even the original Predators almost look like dogs, kind of like it's crazy to think like how much splicing in DNA what you call it, not only just the engineers, but I think it was oh my God, I almost said Yusong Vong, which is a part of Star Wars. I can't remember the name of I think it was actually the original design for the Predator they kind of added into the lore that original design for the Predator that was scrapped in the first movie. That's like a separate alien type, and it's in the comics. They explain everything. I just can't think of the name. I'm sure you can look it up. But anyway, long story short, they actually would enslave the Yautjas before they were called Yautjas, and they started splicing DNA and stuff like that with them, and kind of turned them into super smart, super intelligent, super strong Yautjas, and the Yautjas ended up taking over, and that's how you got Yautja Prime. And there's a whole bunch of like really cool lore. And I'm saying like Predators in general are super awesome to read about. Like there's so much going on with that whole lore and diving into all that. But anyway, I'm going a little bit too deep here. The whole point of that was because I just really enjoy the different looks for different types of Yautjas. Like we've got super predators, which are like the berserker predator. We've got the assassin predator, which is like huge. I think he's something like 11 feet tall, and he's got like armor. His skin is like an armor because they were splicing human DNA and stuff like that. And then you've got the fugitive predator, which are also splicing DNA with. So he's kind of like a human Yautja hybrid, but he's smaller. And it's cool to see all this fun stuff. Then you've got the hunter predators. You've got so many different types of predators. It makes sense to have like another type. So here we have the feral predator. Much different look in the face, especially when his mask comes off, which I was actually surprised his mask didn't come off that much. I think it only comes off like once or twice in the whole movie. So I actually liked that. I like that they kind of kept it a little bit more mysterious. As far as his mask goes, it's much different looking from any other mask we've seen before. It has almost like he collected like bone or skull from another animal and kind of turned it into his mask, which is pretty awesome. It's very unique in design. He's much lighter as far as armor goes. So like you had Youngblood, which was that Scar Predator from AVP, which he was pretty well armored. That whole clan was pretty well armored. As far as that goes, when you see the Elder Predator at the end, give her that combi stick as a present, as a show of respect, you'll see how well armored that whole clan was. And but this guy is, like I said, much lighter as far as armor goes. I want to say he's lighter as far as armor goes, even lighter than the Jungle Hunter Predator, which he was pretty light, except for the plasma caster he had on his shoulder. This guy has no plasma caster. He has a bolt caster, which I'll just name it that. I'm sure it has a technical term, but he has a bolt caster, which is handheld. We've seen it with some of the NECA figures too, where they have this kind of bolt caster that he has to hold, it has to charge up, and then it fires off like a bolt. But it does use the same targeting system as a regular plasma caster. So we've seen that. And then you can also see in the movie, which I thought was also really cool, that the bolt caster not only does the traditional triangle targeting system, but it also can do separate, each dot can hit separate points of its target, or hit separate targets all at once and shoot out 3 different darts, which I think is pretty cool. Like little nerdy shit like that. I love that. It's a little attention to detail stuff that I thought was really good. So the design of the feral predator, his face looks a little funny. My girlfriend made a comment that was really funny, and I'm not going to repeat it, but it's just really funny. As far as, what he kind of looks like. We've heard all types of things, from vagina face to you're one ugly motherfucker, but I want to say that I like the uniqueness of his look. And I was actually, when I first found out that this movie, which was in that long ago. But when I first found out this movie was coming out, I was like, I wonder if they'll do a female Predator in a movie, because we haven't really seen any female predators, and there's a lot of lore already out there with female predators and stuff like that. And when they hunt differently, and they're yeah. So there's a lot going on there, and they're also a lot smarter than the males. So it'd be interesting to see a female predator eventually in a movie or something like that, which I'm hoping in the future we get a all predator movie. I don't want any humans in it. I feel like it's unnecessary. I've been saying the same thing about a lot of different movies that don't need essentially human beings to be in the movie to make it interesting. We don't need that connection. I feel like we're so self-involved as human beings that we have to have people feel like we have to have some sort of connection to have a human being in the movie to make it relevant. No, you don't. If the characters are interesting enough, you don't need that. And I think Predators are interesting enough with their culture that a lot of people still don't know a lot about. I do, because I read the comics and I'm a dork like that, but most people don't. So it'd be interesting to get Yautja Prime, see how their culture is, which is a lot different. Like you have a whole, and what was it? Yautja culture. You have a whole committee of elders that get together, and they are like, they've been around for centuries and been hunting for centuries. And with Yautjas, I mean, the older you get, the stronger you get. So it's pretty interesting. Even just their anatomy, their biology, stuff like that, like how everything is so much different. But it'd be cool to actually see something from the lens of an actual predator throughout a story. So that would be nice. And I feel like people care enough about the characters. Like there's a lot of, like you see it in the movie Predators, like when they, Brody cuts down the captured predator, you kind of feel bad for him. You know what I mean? Like the original predators, the hunter predators are something that you can connect with because of that original film. So, and I can respect their code of honor. You know, they don't just go around killing anything. They kill something that they feel like is something that would be a worthy opponent. And they don't, they also show sympathy, like we saw in Predator 2 with, even though, what was it? I can't think of her character name, but she was pregnant with a child. She had a gun. She was about to shoot the predator. Predator could have killed her, but he showed sympathy because she was with child and decided not to kill her. So we see the code of honor within the hunters, and even the Lost Tribe, because City Hunter Predator was a part of the Lost Tribe. So maybe a movie about the Lost Tribe would be awesome. But back to this movie, because I'm going way off on tangents, which I could talk about Predators all day if you wanted to. I want to say that this movie was pretty well done. It's simplistic when you think about what it's compared to as far as the original. And other Predator movies that got really convoluted, like The Predator, which was just, I just don't understand the thought process there with that movie. But, yeah, I thought this movie was well done. And I think it's going to be a lot of people's maybe second best because they forgot how good the actual, Predator 2 is. For me, if I were to rank this movie, it would definitely be Predator with Arnold as number 1, Predator 2 with Danny Glover. And it's tough because I actually like Predators. A lot of people don't. There are a lot of callbacks, but I think Robert Rodriguez didn't do too much with this film. Like sometimes we can see when Robert Rodriguez does too much with a film or character, like, Book of Boba Fett. But for this, I feel like Predators was just enough. And I like it. I like the uniqueness of it. We got to actually see a different planet for once instead of, Earth being the center of the universe in most films, which is annoying. I don't know. I really felt like Predators is a much better film than people give it credit for. But I would definitely put Prey above Predators. I think it's the third best film, objectively speaking. I just think Predator 2 really took what Predator did, the original film, and expanded on that. And it didn't do it with there was no get to the chopper. There was none of that. It was its own thing. Like that's what people don't realize about Predator 2 is that, it's Danny Glover. He's a cop. It's a totally different setting in general. Like they went from the jungle to the concrete jungle. No pun intended there with the Concrete Jungle video game, which I love. But and that's what I feel like was such a unique thing for them. That Gary Busey acting like a psycho, which is great to watch, in that movie. And just like I said, like the uniqueness of it, and then you realized how much bigger the world was outside of the Predator. I can't say the Predator because then you're thinking of the new movie, but it expanded the lore. Like you got to see the Lost tribe, and you got to see a bunch more Predators. So you're like, whoa, there's like a whole gang of these things. It's not just one or two; it's a whole bunch of them. And they have tribes, and they have a culture, and they have a world, and there's aliens a part of this. That was the movie that established aliens as being in the same universe. Like, that was a big deal, and people don't talk about Predator 2 that much. And it's a well-acted movie, and people need to get off hating on Predator 2 because it's just not warranted. Like, I want to hear the actual reasons why Predator 2 sucks to people, because all I've heard was, oh, that's so cheesy, and there's no actual warrant behind it. So I feel like those arguments just don't hold water at all, because as far as lore goes, it was like the lore movie. It got the lore going, I feel like. Now, I understand comics were, it was different. Predator 2, technically, should have been Dutch, but they changed it. It was Danny Glover, and they changed the character entirely. I know, I get all that. I have the comic myself. It's graded and on my wall. But my point is that that's why I still think it squeaks out Prey. Prey's a good movie. It's self-contained. It does take place in a totally different time, the 1700s. A lot of people get caught up in, they're not speaking Comanche a whole lot. It's only in the beginning. And I'm like, does it matter? Like, it's an English-speaking movie. It's produced by, it's a U.S. production company. Like, of course, they're not gonna be speaking Comanche the whole time. They could have went the whole apocalyptico way and did everything in subtitles, which I had to watch that movie multiple times to understand everything, because me multitasking with ADD is not a good thing. I'm not a multitasker. I never have been. But by the time I would read a subtitle, I'd miss part of the scene or something, or, it's just the way my processing works. So I don't mind that it was in English. I thought it was like a nice transition from when she's speaking Comanche in the beginning, and it kind of like translates into English. So they're speaking Comanche to each other. It's just the English way of we're speaking. It's like almost like we're speaking Comanche through the character, so we understand what they're saying. But what was it? The major thing that I kind of had an issue with was it was more of with especially her character, the main character. She was kind of speaking more modern English as opposed to having like an accent and speaking, dialect is a lot different than modern day speaking, especially modern day English, is very complex, and different words have different meanings and stuff like that, and how you say it and all that stuff. So personally, I think like they could have dumbed that down a little bit more as far as the way she was speaking and give her an accent and stuff like that. But they didn't do that. And maybe that's just a nitpick on my part, and that's perfectly fine, but it's just something I did notice. I want to say that the action scenes were set well. I thought the conflict between multiple different characters that she had to deal with, which was the French hunters, and then you had her own tribe, attacking her and stuff like that, trying to bring her back to her camp because she wanted to prove a point, and they're like, no, you don't need to prove a point, and we'll bring you back to camp with force if necessary. I thought that was okay. I feel like they went a little bit too much with her kind of beating up a dude and then beating up a predator, but I gotta say, it'd be no different from if it was a man fighting another man, or characters that are the protagonists are they're going to be a little bit more than normal in a movie like this. And we're talking about, like, a lot of people were like, oh, well, it's not realistic, she's like 110 pounds. I'm like, none of this movie is realistic. We're talking about an alien that comes down and hunts human beings and it's a friggin' predator, for God's sake. Like, look at the predator. There's nothing realistic about the predator. Okay, it's a made up character. So of course we're gonna have made up characters doing more than they're supposed to. I want to say all of the main protagonists in the Predator movies have been a little bit more than normal. So what are we even talking about to begin with? So I'm not going with that whole, oh, it's a feminist thing. No. Not with this movie. I want to say that this movie was well done. It's not a Captain Marvel. It's not that movie, guys. So don't put it in that category. It's really not. There's stuff that's taken liberties with, sure, but so is every Predator protagonist. So let's knock it off, and just go with the flow. Because if it was a man doing all of that, you would have no issue. And I got news for you: all the men that fought the Predators didn't do that great anyway. So I want to say the only guy that really put up the biggest fight was Danny Glover. Like, he put up, I want to say, the best fight. Like, he went hand to hand, toe to toe with that city hunter predator, and he did pretty damn well. He didn't look that weak in the movie. Like, he was actually hunting and chasing the predator at one point, all the way back to the ship, and then he stabbed the shit out of him with the disc. So, if anything, Danny Glover is probably I would say Danny Glover, then Brody, maybe Danny Glover, then Arnold, then Brody, were the big three that were probably the most dominant. But she pops into this, and she's pretty, she's doing backflips off of trees and stuff like that to dodge attacks. And then she actually gets the feral predator at one point to cut his own arm off because he was trying to dodge an attack from her. And I feel like it made him seem kind of stupid, like he wasn't as smart as other predators. And there's a couple scenes to kind of bring some light to that, because not only him cutting his arm off, but there's a couple scenes where he just kind of does silly stuff, where he could have done something else, but I'm not going to dive too deep into that. But she does, I feel like how small she was and how quick she was really gave her the advantage as far as this predator goes. He's actually, and the feral predator is much smaller. Well, not much smaller, but smaller, closer to like 6'6", 6'5", than a normal jungle hunter, which is about 7 feet taller or more. So this predator was a little bit slimmer, a little bit smaller, faster probably than some of the other, hunters, but still, I want to say not as smart as the city or the jungle hunter. So, and you could notice there's some sort of decision making elements in it that he kind of didn't make good decisions on. But I also liked his unique tech. Like I said, he had the shield. He had these almost like sonic sensing pucks that would come up, and they would just find people and explode, which was pretty awesome. He also had the bolt caster, which was pretty cool and unique looking. I liked that. And the targeting system on his helmet was very similar to other targeting systems on other masks, but the mask itself just looked so unique and cool that, I don't know. It was just a very enjoyable movie. I have a lot of positive to say about it. And the only gripe I really had, like the major gripe, and this is what I was alluding to earlier, was the Raphael Adolini pistol being handed off to the main character. Now, there's pretty much confirmation that Raphael was the guy speaking to her in the film that said he could speak multiple different languages, and Comanche was one of them. And so the story goes like this. He comes in with the Frenchman hunters, and his name is Raphael. He hands her the gun, which says Raphael Adolini on it, or the pistol, the flint pistol, and that's kind of the story, was that he gave that pistol to her, and then she used it to help kill the feral predator. And now she is in possession of that. Now, eventually that flint pistol has to get to Danny Glover. Now, does that confirm a sequel? We don't know. At the end, you can see kind of cave drawings and stuff like that when the credits are starting to roll, and you can see another ship comes down, and it's like they're waiting. So I don't know. Maybe there'll be a Prey 2. Maybe she'll die in it, and then she hands the pistol off, and they kind of rewrite history as far as the lore goes. Now, this is the only nitpick gripe I had, was that they did rewrite some of the lore, which was in the comics, and those comics were a lot different. So Raphael Adolini originally was I guess you could say, a pirate sailor. We'll just call him a sailor. And he was with a crew, and the crew wanted to commit mutiny, and they settled at a island, and there was a bunch of gold involved, and mutiny was involved, and the Predator saw this and helped Raphael Adolini, and they took out the whole crew. The whole crew is dead between Raphael and the Predator. They worked together, and that's part of the code of honor. The Predator saw that he was outnumbered and was like, I'm going to step in and I'm going to help this guy. And then after that, Raphael was challenged by the Predator because the Predator saw him as, an honorable opponent and wanted to challenge him. Challenges him. Raphael ends up dying. I don't even think it was by the Predator's hand. I have the comic. I haven't read it in a while, but Raphael then hands over the flint pistol to that elder Predator. He becomes an elder Predator later on, and then we know him as the Gray Elder. Okay? And it was a sign of respect because Raphael respected him and he respected Raphael. And I feel like that was a much better story being told than we just kind of rewrote history for the sake of having the pistol in this film. I don't know. Maybe it's, like I said, maybe it's just my nitpick, but I'm sure it bothered someone else out there, and they get where I'm coming from as far as that whole thing goes. But I felt like that could have been the story here, and they didn't want to rewrite the whole story of already been told with the pistol. So they just threw the pistol in here as like a nod to that story. To me, I just feel like if the story's already been written, just don't mess with it. It's just unnecessary because it was its own story. But eventually that pistol has to get to Danny Glover just by canon in general. So I don't know. Hopefully they don't say like something like down the line or, oh, well, we're 86ing Predator 2 out of the canon, because that would just suck. That would just absolutely suck. There's too much lore involved with Predator 2 for them to just 86 a movie that initiated a lot of the lore, the expanded lore. But I don't know. I'm droned on long enough. I want to say if I had to rate this, like I said, Predator 2, Prey, Predators, and then AVP. I'll put The Predator over Requiem, because Requiem is essentially an early 90s horror film that's poorly lit as far as it being written and directed. It's got cool characters in it. It's got a lot of cool expanded lore as well. But it's really bad. It's just really poorly done. The execution's bad. Some of the acting is not good. So I have to be objective here, and I'll just put The Predator above Requiem, but that's not by much. And if I had to rate this out of 10, I'd probably give this like an 8 out of 10. I think it's a really good film. And it's not a long film either, which is good. My girlfriend and I were an hour in, and we're like, wow, it's like, there's only like 40 minutes left. That's crazy. It's like an hour and 43 minutes or something like that. So not a long movie. It's enjoyable. It tells a story, beginning, middle, and end. Maybe there will be a Prey 2. It got a good reaction. If you check like Metacritic or if you check Rotten Tomatoes, it's got a high score. I think the critics gave it like an 80, which is harsh. I still think it's a better movie than an 80. But I don't know. Personally, go check it out. Sorry, I know there were some spoilers in it, but this is a review, and there's going to be spoilers in a review. You can't do a review without spoilers. I hate non-spoiler reviews anyway. They're redundant. It's like, why even have the review? I feel like you should watch a review after you see the movie, so you can, I don't know, maybe you missed something and the person can talk about what happened in the film after to open up your eyes or shatter the glass so you can see something new or in a different light or something like that. But yeah, I thought this was a good movie. Definitely go check it out. And for a lot of people that are very negative about new movies, this was actually a positive movie. So have fun with it. Enjoy it. Check it out. I can't wait for it to come out on DVD because I want to buy that shit. And I can't wait for NECA to start pumping out some figures of this movie. I'll love it. Maybe we'll get some... hopefully we get the main character. I would like to at least get all of the main characters in these films. I feel like NECA can get licensing for Danny Glover. I want a Harrigan figure. I want a Adrian Brody figure from Predators. Maybe we could start doing like some sort of like legacy line for like the human characters. That'd be cool to get. But I don't know. That's pretty much it for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Did you enjoy Prey? Did you not? What were your things? Did you notice anything that I didn't talk about that could have been something to talk about as far as that goes? But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys on the flip side.